Good morning, good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel called Ek Kitab Se Ek Moti, which in English means a pearl or gem from a book. Today I'm going to read a section or a few paragraphs from this book. It's called Six Attitudes for Winners, and it has been written by Norman Vincent Peale. This is one of his shorter books. Usually he writes books of maybe 150, 200 pages. This one is very short. Actually, if you see, the font size is big. That's why this book looks bigger than it is, larger than it is. So it's actually a pretty small book. It's a booklet. So I'm going to talk about a very important concept which he calls being a how thinker. So there are two ways of handling or confronting problems. One is using the concept of if thinking, and the other one is using the concept of how thinking. So the passages that I'm going to read will clarify these the distinction between these two ways of thinking, and this concept has been explained in a section that's called 3 Steps to a Positive Mental Attitude. So he lists 3 steps. One is think, don't react. The second step is becoming a how thinker. And the third step is believe you can and you can. But in this video, I'm going to just select one idea so that it's easier to ponder over that idea and digest that idea and implement it in our lives. So I'm going to talk about the second concept that he lists in this in these 3 steps, steps to a positive mental attitude. So in order to be positive, we need to become a how thinker, and I'm going to read now, and then we'll have a short discussion before I conclude the video. Become a how thinker. After 30 years of hard work, Fred lost his business because of a crooked partner. I expected him to be full of bitterness when he came to see me. That is, he's talking in first person. So normally in the books of Norman Vincent Peale, you'll have all these dialogues where he'll also be one of the people talking or listening. I expected him to be full of bitterness when he came to see me. Instead, he told me he had found his assets to be much greater than his liabilities. All I had when I began 30 years ago was $50. Now I have $500. So in 30 years at least, he had increased his assets from $50 to $500. That's an increase of around $450. So it's an increase, right? He's still in a better condition. All I had when I began 30 years ago was $50. Now I have $500. So you see, I am ahead on that, he said with a grin. I started with a wonderful wife, and I still have her, thank God, and I'm way ahead on experience. Within a year after this setback, he had started another business and was doing well. But the statement he made that really stayed with me was this: I decided I would not be an if thinker, but a how thinker. That's quite a thought-provoking distinction. The if thinker broods over a difficulty or a setback, saying bitterly to himself, if only I had done thus and so, if only this or that circumstance had been different, if others had not treated me so unfairly. So it goes from explanation to explanation, round and round, getting nowhere. The world is full of defeated if thinkers. The how thinker, on the other hand, wastes no energy on post-mortems when trouble or even disaster hits him. He immediately starts looking for the best solution, for he knows there always is a solution. He asks himself, how can I use this setback creatively? How can I work something good out of it? The how thinker gets problems solved effectively because he knows that values are always inherent in difficulty. He wastes no time with futile ifs, but goes right to work on the creative house. So before I talk about the distinction between these two ways of thinking and why how thinking is better than if thinking, and why we need to follow how thinking, or put into practice how thinking, in order to be a person of positive mindset, let me just briefly talk about some of the things that Norman Vincent Peale mentions in this paragraph through the words of the person whom he talked to. His name was Fred. So Fred said that he was still thankful because of that bad experience he had with his crooked partner, because he had increased his assets, although the increase was not a great one. So his assets had increased from $50 to $500. So he was looking at the positive side of his situation, and he was also thinking of the things he already had. When the disaster struck him. So he had a wonderful wife, and he also had gained a lot of valuable experience because of doing business, and now he would be more he'd be more circumspect, and he would be careful when he does business with others. As the saying goes, a burnt child dreads fire, I think. So once you get some bitter experience, you are careful the next time, and you learn from these bitter experiences. So other than these, the most important things that have been discussed in these paragraphs are related to the two ways of thinking, if thinking and how thinking. So when a problem strikes or a disaster confronts us, the if thinker tries to brood over the difficulties and is bitter about it and complains and tries to reverse that situation in the mind, which is a sheer waste of mental energy, which can be creatively used to handle the situation. So when trouble confronts us, if we just use the if thinking process, then we would be trying to think about what we should not have done so that we could have escaped this trouble, what we should not have said, or what we should not have invested in, or maybe why we should not have started the business in the first place. So all these if thinking processes are actually a waste of mental energy, and they get us nowhere. It's just like, as he says, it goes from explanation to explanation, round and round, getting nowhere. And he also says the world is full of defeated if thinkers. So if thinking can lead to defeat, and that's the major thing that we need to avoid in our lives, defeat. It doesn't mean that we won't fail a few times. If you have heard of Peter J. Daniels, he's one of the great entrepreneurs in Australia, a great trainer, a great motivational speaker. He failed in business 3 times, or maybe 2 times, I'm not sure, but the next time he was successful. So after failing quite a few times in business, going bankrupt and being chased by creditors, so that they could recover some money from him, he handled that crisis successfully and turned out to be a successful entrepreneur in the real estate industry. So you don't need to be defeated. Unless you accept defeat, you are not defeated. So if you avoid if thinking, you can avoid being defeated. If thinking, as I said earlier, it's a waste of mental energy. God has given this thinking ability to us so that we could handle our problems, so that we could find creative solutions to issues and troubles that we are facing, instead of trying to do a postmortem of the issue and trying to blame circumstances, blame others, blame other human beings, blame ourselves. So stopping the blame game is what Dr. Norman Vincent Peale is trying to say, who has written this book. So let me come to the how thinking process and why it's much better than if thinking. So how thinking is a creative process. It gives us new ideas. It makes us find resources within us and around us that we may not have been able to find without this way of thinking, the how thinking process. And the how thinker tries to find out what's some good that we can extract from the trouble that has struck us. And the how thinker also knows that there is some good that's always present in every trouble, and the how thinker wastes no time in trying to go after the futile ifs, but goes right to work on the creative hows. Let me give some examples of the how thinking process. This was mentioned to me by one of my trainers, Dr. Francis Xavier. I think he's no more. May his soul rest in peace. He was a great man. So he said that two people were fired. One of them was an if thinker, and he started thinking, if only I had been a good employee, if only I had been disciplined at work, if only I had developed my skills, if only I had listened to my boss and focused on my work, if only I had improved my performance in office, and so on and so on. So he was kind of blaming himself, and he became depressed, and he became suicidal. But the other fellow who was fired started thinking using the how thinking process. That is, he started thinking how he could get out of this problem, and what are the good things that can come out of this bad thing, so-called bad thing that had happened to him. So he started thinking of starting his own business, which he had postponed for quite some time, and he started distributing sweets to his friends and colleagues and people who were around him, neighbors. So the same situation was faced by these two fellows. One person was trapped in this if thinking process. So he had created a cage of thoughts actually and words out of which it was difficult for him to escape. But the other fellow was able to use the creative how process, and now he was facing the situation in a positive way, with a positive mindset, because he was thinking of ways of solving his problem, which is like, if you lose your job, the problem is how are you going to get the money to run your home, to pay your bills. So he started thinking creatively and was able to become a successful businessman. So that's how how thinking helps us in times of trouble. And the other thing is, it keeps our mind free of tension. It keeps our mind free of trying to live our lives again in the past. I have had occasions to discuss with people that these concepts, discuss in a sense like I was able to sense this sense how this if thinking pattern was troubling them. For example, I know of certain people who, when confronted with problems, think this way: if only I had done this, if only I had thought this way, if only I had listened to someone else, if only that fellow had not caused this problem to me, or if only that fellow had not betrayed me, or if only that fellow had not told me lies, or had not cheated me. So all these different ways of putting into practice the deadly if thinking process. On the contrary, I've also had discussions with people who think in the creative way. So when they are fired or lose their jobs, they're not depressed. They think of better opportunities looking at us, or looking at them, or better opportunities that are going to come their way, and they take it as an opportunity to upgrade their skills, to become better at what they have been doing. So in this world, there is never a a lack of opportunity for people who are willing to develop themselves. Companies want good employees, people with good attitude, people with good skills, people with good communication skills, people with good knowledge, and so on. So all these things can be developed. So it's never the case that one setback or even two or three setbacks or two or three failures in life mean that the road ahead has been blocked forever, or the doors have been closed forever. I think Peter J. Daniels said, if someone says the doors to opportunities are closed, that just kick it down. I mean, just break the door and create opportunities. So what he was trying to say is this: people get trapped in these, there is a word for it, certain cliches, that we usually repeat without thinking. So also, I think it's called truism. So these truisms, sometimes can promote negative thinking instead of positive thinking. So I hope you liked the video. In order to find out what other attitudes a winner has, I recommend this book. I've read it, and if you see, I've marked it on almost every page. That is, I've marked some important points on almost every page. And if you see these markings, so this book had a great influence on my way of thinking, and I've also made some notes, I think. So I've made some notes as well. So when you read a book, just try to mark those passages that strike you, so that the next time when you return to the book, you can see what influenced you more when you read it the first time. So each time you read, you maybe mark something new, or maybe write something down, take some notes, and take full advantage of your reading sessions. I hope you liked this video. So to recapitulate, become a how thinker and not an if thinker. If thinking is a negative process where you try to blame others, blame yourself, blame your circumstances, blame your situation, but the how thinking process is a creative process where you try to find solutions, you try to find ways of overcoming those obstacles that you're facing, and you try to become victorious. Thanks for watching this video.